You have probably been told that you are too picky or too independent. People might look at your life and wonder why you spend so much time alone. They see your capability and assume your isolation is a deliberate rejection of the world. You might even wonder the same thing on the nights when the quiet feels too loud. But from the outside, it is incredibly easy to mistake your necessary distance for arrogance. It is easy for others to assume that you simply think you are better than everyone else. The truth is much heavier and far more complicated than that. Your solitude is rarely born out of superiority or a desire to look down on others. It is almost always born out of sheer neurological exhaustion. For a highly active mind, social interaction is never just a passive activity. Most people can float through a room, exchanging pleasantries without losing much energy. But for you, small talk is not merely boring or slightly annoying. It is a tangible, physical drain on your internal battery. Your brain is wired to seek patterns, dissect concepts, and crave deep complexity. When forced to spend hours discussing the weather, your mind feels entirely starved. It is like trying to run a high-performance engine on the lowest grade of fuel. You are not judging people for genuinely enjoying these simple, predictable conversations. You simply lack the bandwidth to sustain them without feeling completely hollowed out. This chronic disconnect forces you into a daily, exhausting performance. You learned a long time ago that your natural intensity makes most people profoundly uncomfortable. If you share the true depth of your thoughts, people often blink at you in silence. If you show how deeply you care about the nuances of the world, people tell you to lighten up. They ask why you have to overthink everything, completely misunderstanding how your mind naturally operates. So, you learn to edit yourself in real time, functioning as your own strict censor. You carefully hold back your sharpest observations to avoid sounding like a know-it-all. You actively dim your own lights so that others do not feel blinded. But this intellectual camouflage comes with a massive, invisible cost. Masking your true nature requires an enormous amount of cognitive and emotional energy. By the time you finally get home and close the door, you are completely depleted. Isolation becomes a massive relief because it is the only time you can stop translating yourself. Alone is the only place where you do not have to shrink to fit the room. When you do attempt to form connections, an entirely new kind of exhaustion sets in. You process information at a much higher resolution than the vast majority of people. This means you do not just hear what people say, you observe the space between their words. You catch the slight shifts in tone, the fleeting hesitation, and the unsaid emotional undercurrents. You are constantly reading the subtext of your relationships, whether you want to or not. Because of this high-fidelity perception, you often find yourself doing the heavy lifting in your friendships. You anticipate their needs, navigate their shifting moods, and adjust your behavior to keep things smooth. You put in a disproportionate amount of cognitive and emotional effort to maintain the connection. But the tragic reality of this dynamic is that your quiet effort is rarely reciprocated. It is not that the people in your life do not care about you, they simply do not see the world with the same level of emotional granularity. This creates a profound and lonely sense of asymmetry in almost all of your closest relationships. You give them the deep, highly focused attention you desperately wish someone would give you, and when they inevitably miss your subtle signals, it leaves you feeling entirely unseen. It is a uniquely painful experience to be surrounded by friends and still feel completely invisible. Take a moment to truly recognize the weight of what you have been carrying. These patterns of isolation were never random character flaws or signs of a broken personality. They were brilliant adaptations to a world that was simply not built for your frequency. Your loneliness is not a symptom of being damaged or unlovable. It is the direct consequence of possessing a depth that most environments cannot safely hold. There is another quiet layer to this isolation that very few people are willing to discuss. Your desperate need for exactness and absolute truth can unintentionally push people far away. When your mind is sharp, you naturally cut straight to the core of any issue. You want absolute clarity, whether you are debating a concept or resolving a personal conflict. But most people use vagueness and ambiguity as a protective shield to get through the day. They rely on social polite fictions to keep their lives comfortable, steady, and unchallenging. When you bypass the pleasantries and speak directly to the raw truth, it feels intimidating. You just want to pull the heavy curtain back and look openly at the reality. But to someone hiding behind that curtain, your search for clarity feels like an attack. Over time, you begin to notice people taking a step back from your intensity. You watch them choose easier companions who do not challenge their fragile worldview. And once again, you are left completely alone, feeling punished for simply wanting to be honest. Eventually, after years of this exhausting cycle, you reach a quiet breaking point. You stop forcing yourself into crowded environments that systematically drain your soul. You stop chasing after people who require you to fold yourself in half to be kept around. You realize the true opposite of loneliness is not simply being around other human beings. The actual opposite of loneliness is the rare experience of being deeply and accurately understood. You are not actually antisocial, despite what the rest of the world might loudly claim. You are just patiently holding out for a high-fidelity connection. You are waiting for someone who speaks your complex internal language fluently and naturally. Someone who does not require you to translate your thoughts or endlessly dilute your natural intensity. You deeply crave a mind that can effortlessly keep pace with the speed of your own. A person who finds your intricate complexity absolutely fascinating, rather than a burden to endure. Until you find that elusive connection, you make a conscious and protective choice. You choose the peaceful quiet of solitude over the crushing loneliness of the wrong company. This brave choice certainly comes with a heavy and undeniable emotional burden. There will inevitably be nights when the silence in your home feels heavier than usual. There will be moments of grief for the simple connections that come so naturally to others. You will occasionally mourn the fact that you cannot just switch off your mind and blend in. But you must remember that this grief is the strict price of admission for your authenticity. You cannot betray your neurological wiring just to feel a temporary sense of belonging in a crowd. Your deliberate isolation is actually a profound and radical form of self-respect. It means you have finally stopped negotiating your worth in rooms where you clearly do not belong. You are smartly preserving your vital energy for the rare connections that will actually matter. The world may look at you and see someone who is withdrawn, difficult, or needlessly complicated. But they do not see the rich, vast universe you have carefully built inside your mind. You are simply refusing to live a shallow version of it that feels fake to you. Do not let anyone ever convince you that your well-earned solitude is a tragedy. It is the sacred sanctuary where your unique brilliance is allowed to breathe without apology. One day, you will find someone who does not ask you to quiet your beautifully restless mind. They will sit willingly with you in the deep complexity, and it will finally feel like coming home. Until that day arrives, fiercely honor the quiet, protective space you have built for yourself. Your mind is a rare and beautiful place, and it absolutely deserves to be protected.